I'm Emilee Mooney Scott, Environmental Partner at Robinson & Cole. Thank you for watching the Release Report, a video series that highlights key features of Connecticut's new Release-Based Cleanup Regulations, or RBCRs, slated to go into effect on March 1st, 2026. This is Episode 7. Today, we will discuss the classification of releases into risk-based tiers under the RBCRs. As I'll explain, the tier to which a release is assigned determines the level of oversight by DEEP, the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Additional details are available in a companion post on the Robinson & Cole Environmental Law Plus blog. The oversight tiers we'll discuss in this episode apply to both old and new releases. It is important to note, however, that this discussion only applies to those releases that have not been characterized, remediated, and closed within the first year after the discovery or occurrence of the release. As we discussed in a prior edition of the release report, for certain new releases, and especially serious existing releases called significant existing releases in the RBCRs, immediate actions are required. Those immediate actions may be enough to completely resolve the release, in which case this discussion of tiers would not apply. Other releases will be closed within a year, even if not required, thanks to a straightforward remedial approach. Any release closed within a year after discovery or occurrence gets to bypass the assignment of tiers. With that background, let us now focus on releases that have not been remediated within the first year after occurrence or discovery. If a release has not been closed within 1 year after occurrence or discovery, the RBCRs provide that it must be assigned to a tier based on the risks posed by the release. As we will see, the tier to which a release is assigned controls the oversight, deadlines, and fees associated with the release. In order to assign a release to a tier, a licensed environmental professional, or LEP, must complete the tier checklist form provided as an appendix to the RBCRs. Tiers are assigned as follows. Tier 1A is the highest risk level, and it applies to releases that are not yet well understood. As we will discuss further, Tier 1A releases are subject to direct DEEP oversight. A release is assigned to Tier 1A if tier characterization has not yet been completed, or if receptors are not known and documented through completion of a scoping level ecological risk assessment, a drinking water receptor survey, and a vapor intrusion survey. A release is also assigned to Tier 1A if required immediate actions have not been completed. We discussed immediate actions in Episode 5. Tier 1B includes those releases that may be managed by an LEP, but which are relatively higher risk releases. These include releases that involve a groundwater plume migrating off the source parcel, releases for which a vapor intrusion pathway is present, and releases for which a drinking water receptor pathway is present. Tier 2 releases are those that pose a lower degree of risk than Tiers 1A and 1B, but for which additional remediation is required. For example, Tier 2 releases are those that do not fall within Tiers 1A and 1B, but still require soil remediation, or the elimination of exposure pathways. Tier 3 releases are the lowest risk releases that have not yet been closed. These are releases for which groundwater is being addressed through monitored natural attenuation, and no additional active work is required. As work is accomplished to address a release, or more information becomes available, a release can be reclassified into a different tier. If a release does not fall into Tier 1A, and a remedial action plan has not yet been prepared, the release is automatically assigned to Tier 1B. Once the remedial action plan has been prepared, the release could be assigned to a lower risk tier. Alternately, if conditions come to light that change the LEP's understanding of the release, and it turns out that additional exposure pathways are present that have not yet been addressed, the release might need to be reclassified to a higher tier. Now let's discuss the impact of tier assignment. Releases assigned to Tiers 1B through 3 will be managed by an LEP in much the way the majority of transfer act remediation projects are managed now. Tier 1A releases will be subject to direct DEEP control, just as a relatively small proportion of transfer act sites today require DEEP to approve their remediation. The RBCRs set deadlines by which remediation must be completed, which vary by tier. Fees also vary by tier. Additional detail on fees and deadlines are provided in our companion blog post. So, to review, the RBCRs require releases to be assigned to a tier based on risk. The tier assignment is made 1 year after discovery or occurrence of a release, and releases closed within 1 year can bypass the tiering process. The tier to which a release is assigned determines the oversight, deadlines, and fees applicable to the release. Now that we have discussed the first year and tier assignment, we can move on to discuss remediation endpoints and closure documentation. These will be discussed in upcoming episodes. I hope you will join us. Thank you.